North Carolina Channel is made possible by the financial contributions of viewers like you who support the UNC TV network.
Hello and welcome to Sit Rep. We are live here in New Bern at the New Bern Waterfront Convention Center. I'm Jeff Smith, your host, and I'm pleased to be joined by our panelists here as we talk about Veterans Affairs issues in Craven County and New Bern. First, I have LaVeya Wallace-Singleton with the Veterans Employment Base Camp in Organic Garden, also a U.S. Navy veteran. And then next to you is Jeff Futrell, Craven County Veterans Services and also Navy veteran. And to round out, we have Ron Perez, who is a Marine veteran, which is important. We have additional support here on the staff. He's also with the Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 2514. Thank you all for being here today and sharing your insight with the veterans issues and great things that are happening here in the community. I want to first start off for the discussion. What are some of the biggest challenges that you're seeing as our veterans and our soldiers come out of service from active duty? Because we just have a base right down the road. We have other bases with Camp Lejeune, Cherry Point, and in New River. What are some of the things that you're seeing that the transition issue is happening here, and then what is being done to correct any issues that are happening as these soldiers come out of active duty service?
In my office, one of the biggest challenges that I see is really getting to the veterans. A lot of veterans get out of the military. They don't know what type of benefits are available to them as a veteran, and they don't know where to turn to. So to realize that there is something right here in the local community where they can seek their benefits is key, and reaching out to them.
And Jeff, you and I have talked before. You were from a small town, Eastern North Carolina as well. You didn't know what services were available in your community when you got out of the service.
Correct. Not until I got in this line of work did I realize, where veteran services were just about in every community, every county in this state. And so now it's become my passion to get that word out to everyone to find their local office and see what kind of benefits are available to them. Even if they don't think they have any, there may be some available.
Now, Ron, from the VFW side of things and also Craven County Council, Veterans Council, what do you see that's missing for attracting the younger veterans into your services?
It's probably, I think the number one thing that we see right now is finding that stability in their lives once they do leave the service. We do a lot of volunteer work with the RCS, so we have a chance firsthand to be able to look at some of the issues that they're having right now with 23-year-olds who are in there looking for shelter and things like that. And as Jeff said, I mean, it's really not understanding the benefits. It's not understanding the things that they need to do for themselves when they do make that transition into civilian life. And it's interesting. And the good thing about it, though, is that we're able to talk to these folks. We're able to get them to the right places to get that help and to hopefully get them stabilized and moving in the right direction with it. But it's really tough.
Now, LaVeya, I know at the Garden, you have oftentimes some of the Marines coming up and helping out at the Garden, but you're also providing the service to veterans once they're transitioned out. Talk about how you're helping them find jobs and other things. So it's most people get confused when they hear garden, organic garden. Talk about how you're helping out.
Well, even though we're called Veterans Employment Base Camp and Organic Garden, the Organic Garden is mainly a means to an end. What it does is it provides employment for those veterans that need a work history. Also, during the time at the Garden, which the maximum time is about 6 months, normally we're able to help them with their resumes, help them with their benefits, health care. Within about a 2 to 3 month period, we can get them stabilized, back on their feet, and into employment. It was one of the gaps that I saw, when I was working as a disabled veteran outreach programmer, but also as I transitioned from the military myself, being a veteran and being a female, a lot of the females will fade into the background. In some instances, we may not even be considered veterans. So it's getting that push to say, yes, you are a veteran, yes, these things are available, and as Jeff said, reaching out to the veteran service offices and the veteran service organizations.
Ron, you mentioned earlier about veterans' homelessness issues with the younger veterans, but it's across the board. It doesn't matter the age or even the disconnect, how long it's been. What are some of the issues that Craven County is doing and New Bern's doing to really help solve the issue in this area for those that are out on the streets or in the woods even? As I've had veterans show me some of the areas where they have had to stay because of different issues. What is causing them, first of all, to be homeless, and then what's being done to try to get them back in?
Well, I think it's a disconnect they have right now with moving from the uniform to civilian life, is really understanding that new environment that they're going to be operating in. I mean, it's very tough for them. They don't have great communication skills in some cases. And as LeVay said, and I think it's really part of the root problem is it takes 3 to 4 months really to get your feet on the ground once you move from one place to another. One of the things that we've been able to do as a community, I think, is working with the RCS. We started talking about this issue about 3 or 4 years ago. I know that they in turn have decided to come up with a plan now that provides 5 transitional housing spaces for these veterans that are coming out with a veteran first preference. It's going to make a huge difference because it does take that long to get your feet on the ground. And then working with the other organizations like LeVay at that point, getting something behind them, learning how to write a resume, try to understand what their skill sets were in uniform and how does that translate into the private sector. I mean, those are very important things, but they're, you know, it seems funny now at this point in my life that where I'm at, but I look back at it and it was tough to really put that into words about the things that I did in the Marine Corps as a basic rifleman or whatever it may have been. So it's, but we're seeing some really great progress in this community trying to address that issue.
You mentioned the expansion RCS is currently doing. They're actually doing the physical building right now. They're taking some of their offices that they have and they're converting them into the rooms. They even have the cafeteria going to be switched over so they have their specific area. Some great work they're doing. LeVay, quick question for you though. Female veterans, one of the biggest issues that I see on female veterans is a lot of times they have their kids with them.
Right.
And if they have a son with them, the mother and son, if the son's too old, at some shelters cannot stay with them.
Right.
How is that affecting veterans looking for help, and how is items like the RCS, how they're doing their redo, is that a solution for other groups around the state to try to do?
I think that's a real important part of it. And one of the things that Ron was talking about is the collaboration. Issues like the ones you were talking about, they may not be known unless the organization like RCS talks to the veteran organization, comes and actually partners and collaborates with them. We have Jeff come in and he talks about some of the issues that he's witnessing. But even with the RCS renovation, we had American Legion step up and say, hey, you guys need funding for this? Let's push some of the funding your way. All of the organization, we're blessed and so lucky that we have such a strong collaboration and we have such a unit cohesiveness. It's not Marine Corps, Navy, it's veteran when it comes down to it. And when one veteran has a problem, we all have a problem and we work to go and fix it.
Jeff, I know in meetings with you and the group here that we've had, there's a certain Marine who was going to be on our panel and was not able to join us. She had another meeting she had to be at. But the discussion was all about how you all have to collaborate and work together. We've been talking about it a little bit here. Talk about how you sit down and if someone calls you and says, I need help, you might not be the service that can do it. How do you make sure they get the help they need?
Well, like you said, I can't do it all. I can't write a check for rent. I can't put a roof over someone's head immediately. But what we can do as together, as all these organizations together, we bring our talents together and help the veteran. I may call LeVay if they need some employment issues. Send it over to the Veterans Council if someone needs some emergency funding. So we all together, we're all a resource for the veteran. Each one of us has the other ones in their pockets to help each other out. At the end of the day, we're all helping veterans, and that's what it's all about.
And of course, the veteran, the Marine we're talking about, Rashima, a very powerful person. It's amazing to have a collaboration that's including the state too. Because a lot of times that doesn't often happen, where you have the city and the state and the county all working together to help work on the solution. And you're all here in the town together. It's not one person from Raleigh telling you what to do down here. Everybody's involved and very much directly.
We can definitely meet face to face, and not only talk about, the issue that we're having with this particular veteran, but we can come together afterwards and talk and see what we can do better next time, when the situation comes up the next time. Or what we can talk about the resources that we all have, so that when that need arises, we know who we can call to get, a wheelchair for a veteran, or we can call to get, a roof over a head for a veteran. We know the resources are out there and what's available.
We want to go into the next issue that's facing veterans right now. It's a major issue, and it's a sad issue, is suicide. We know that the national number is 20.6 per day right now. Veterans, either active duty or veterans, that are killing themselves on a daily basis. In North Carolina, we're at 5 per week. It's a sad situation. And do any of you have direct connects with someone who's committed suicide as a veteran, and how did that affect you guys? Anyone?
Well, I can talk firsthand about it. We had a young Afghan Marine who was discharged, and he came to us, and we kind of took him in. We were sitting with him one night having a little chat. Everything seemed fine. The next morning, he had committed suicide. Less than a month later, his brother, who was also an Afghan veteran, committed suicide as well. It was kind of a wake-up call about how little we understood about the problem. How do you identify that? What are the resources that you need to reach out to right away to be able to get them the help they need? And if we look back at starting from World War II, working our way back up to these different generations that we have, and some of them were able to handle some of those situations through small groups of people that related to the same experience, and they were able to be the best friends and talk and that type of thing. This group that we have right now coming out, they didn't have kind of that support group even internally. I mean, they were going 3 sheets to the wind, I guess, when they got left the service. But we're actively involved now with the VFW and trying to be able to identify those warning signs. Taking a look at make sure they have the crisis hotline number to be able to call in and to talk to somebody who really can talk to them about some of the issues that they really have. I mean, we're not psychiatrists, we're veterans. And but we do like talking to people. We do like being able to have that camaraderie up there. And we're hoping that we can build that trust. Now, part of what's happened over the last few months is we've started to see more and more of the Afghan and Iraq vets are coming in and joining as members now. So it's greening the population out, but it's also creating a base that they can relate to one another on and talk about some of those issues. And I think that's key to it right now, is being able to bring them together to talk about what those problems are, what they saw, what they experienced, and then how to deal with it. And that's where Jeff, LeVay, and some of the other programs that we have in the community right now really come together to kind of help support that.
I know our friends at the VA and my friend who's in the audience, the other Jeff Smith, as we call him, from DHHS, we're always big on making sure we push the information about the suicide hotline that's out there for those who are in need, and that's a very important tool. What tools have you found, though, are for those of you who are left behind? What services have you found that helped you all deal with what you had with the suicide you dealt with?
Well, I think it's, the court's still out, if you will, on some of that. And simply because of the sheer numbers and trying to understand the value of the services that are out there for that right now. If you take a look at the crisis line that we have right now, I think it was 133,000 calls that were made to that. 500 and less than 600 actually were referred to the back office for further discussion, I guess, at a different level. We're not sure all those were vets. Some of them certainly were, we know were not vets. Some of it does not talk about their issues that they were having with a breakdown, but to complain about VA services and things like that. So right now we're just trying to get our arms around the numbers of what they really mean up there, and so we can make that service better. I think what's happening right now, as you mentioned earlier, with this third crisis center opening up, is making a big difference now, because they're going to be able to be more responsive, able to spend a little more time with each individual call that's coming in, and I think that's starting to make a difference. But you know, with the numbers going up a little bit at this point, I think you know, let's hope that it's hit a plateau and we're starting to really address that in the right way.
I know those call centers are doing a good job of working with the local law enforcement as well to communicate what's going on, so that people are getting the help they need, and it's not, you know, a bad situation, and they're not making it worse. They're actually helping it. And I know that the local law enforcement is doing a good job working with the homeless side as well, trying to, instead of, you know, they're taking them and getting them to those shelters, getting them the help they need. I know we talked about that this morning as well at one of the panels, that there's help out there. What, you know, those are some of the issues. I know opioids is another issue, because, you know, people who are in war, they're in military solutions. You need painkillers sometimes. There's a level that's acceptable and there's a level that's exceeding. I don't want to say there's any one person at fault, but how is the situation here with the opioid crisis that's going on with the addictions and everything else?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not just opioids. Many veterans self-medicate in a variety of ways. And I've seen it from veterans that have come out to the garden. And the good thing about being at the garden is that it's a relaxing atmosphere. Like I tell people, you can work alone or you can work as a team, but it allows them the chance to relax. We sit out there and we talk about different issues. If I have a veteran, which I've had before, that I felt like they were using something, I try and bring them to the side and, you know, hey, you're better than this, and there are people that can help you. I can't. I can only give you access to other, you know, resources and things like that. But also being able to, if it's a Vietnam veteran, say, hey, you know, have you talked to the Vietnam veterans? Or if it's an Iraq and Afghanistan veteran, there are organizations out there that want to talk to you. I don't want it to seem like the transition assistance programs are not working. They are working, but just like the veterans are evolving, so are those programs. They're trying to figure out what can we do to help the veterans, and it's kind of incumbent upon us to tell them, we need this, we need this, you know, we don't need that, you know. But even with the opioids, is there a lot of information out there? It's almost like it got spotlighted and, you know, it was already an issue, and we're running to catch up and find out what's going on.
A lot of it too, I think, is the just like getting to the veterans about their benefits, getting that veteran to the resources that are out there. You know, convincing the veteran that, you know, the VA healthcare system has great mental health programs. You know, that the vet centers, you know, are great counseling programs. You know, a lot of these younger veterans coming out, you know, like he was talking about, he's getting more people into the VFW. Younger veterans getting out don't want to associate with organizations at times, and nor do they want to associate themselves sometimes with the VA. But they need to realize that those programs are out there that can help them, and it's just a matter of getting the veteran to that resources there to give them the help for whatever they may be suffering, mental health, you know, addictions and things like that.
Part of your job is just getting veterans into the system. That's with right. The VA for their benefits. You have the health side, the benefits side. You're just trying to make sure they get what they've earned. You're not taking it away from anyone.
Yeah, we're trying to, and when they come to our office, we try to assess their entire needs. You know, someone may come in for one thing, but, you know, we try to listen to them. We try to engage the conversation and see what their total needs are. You know, it may not just be that veteran's his own disability, but he may have some family issues going on. He may have some employment issues going on. He may have some health care issues going on. So now we got to look at the bigger picture and get him to all those resources that he needs.
One of the resources I know that's coming up next week, actually, next Friday, we have the stand down here. I'm going to let you start because most people don't realize Love has been the major cheerleader here of getting everyone the word out about this. I'm going to let you start. Talk about the stand down that's coming out and what people expect to see there.
All right. The stand down that we're holding is on September 14th. It's from 9 to 1 at the Stanley White Recreation Center at 901 Chapman Street. And that came out of a conversation between RCS and NC Works, Ms. Rashima Walker and Juliet Rogers, talking about the homeless issue amongst veterans. And when I proposed it, it was like, well, do we even have homeless veterans? The thing is, veterans and other homeless people are sitting right in plain sight. They will be in a car that stays in a parking lot. They'll sit in Walmart or any other 24-hour. And then, like you also said, they'll camp out in the woods. So what we try and do is get together once a year. This year we have 60 service providers coming from all across the state. And their main goal is to provide free services to veterans, active duty military, family members, and also caregivers, because they have an important role in the care of the veteran as well. All of the services that are provided are free. We have all kinds of goodies that are going to be there. The main thing is to let that veteran that attends that event know that they are appreciated, they're respected, and they are honored for what they have done. And we've had veterans at those events that have said, you know, I was feeling really bad and depressed, but after I came to this event and I saw what the resources were, there's all kind of possibilities. And that's what we want to give them.
And they get to take a walk afterwards. If they want to walk out back, and they can take a little peek at the garden. It's right on the same property as well. It's a nice little thing you have there. What would you say is your most, Jeff, I'm going to start with you. What is your proudest moment as being a veteran? What is it you really would like to pass along to others that you say, you know, I'm really proud of what I've done here?
I would probably just say the job I'm in. You know, my background before I got in this was nothing like this. Once I got in this line of work, and you know, like you were talking about earlier, me being from a small town, not knowing about my VA benefits. Once I got in this line of work, you know, become that passion that I want to help veterans. I want to, you know, get the word out to them. You know, so that to me, that's what I'm proud of every day is being able to help other veterans, and you know, hopefully it's a life-changing experience for them, you know, for the most part.
Well, you were packing parachutes though for the Navy, and now you're releasing the parachutes for those that come in your office. So you're kind of keeping them going here.
It's a continuation of my service.
Ron, how about yourself?
I think it's the same. I think for most of us who have that passion, we didn't get to where we are without a lot of help from a lot of people as we were growing up. I know that military community that I grew up with for 30 years, it was invaluable to me. It kept me from, you know, the worst things about myself, and you know, kind of got through all that youthful thing. And but in the end, I realized that, you know, it is about continuing to serve as a veteran and our veterans. You know, every day I wake up with thinking, what more can I do to help somebody out? I'm thankful for where I'm at right now, but there's a lot to give, believe me. And this is one of the finest communities that I think I've ever been in with that respect, because I haven't run into anybody yet that is not thinking about what they can do for a veteran in this community. And I really appreciate that.
I'm going to let you two first answer this, and I'm going to come to you second for a reason. How do you get more veterans to self-identify and understand what it means to be a veteran? You know, it's not being a combat veteran only. This is, you served this country. Talk about what you do to make sure you try to bring the awareness of what it means to be a veteran, the services that are available for you.
Well, I think an organization like the VFW, American Legion, the DAV, all these organizations that we have out there right now, they need to understand, number one, that they're there because of the number of veterans that we have in this country. I mean, those are services that are provided for specific things, or just simply because it was the right thing to do for that particular community. And the other day we had a chance to be in front of one of the groups at Cherry Point, Mass 1. They called up, wanted to be a part of the Run for the Fallen. They had some volunteer runners who wanted to get out there. They had a young second lieutenant who he took the lead and made sure that everything was going fine. But to be able to stand in front of that group and thank them for what they had done for us, and for what they had done for that veterans community by honoring the veterans the way they did, and letting them know that someday somebody would be honoring them the same way. I think that was a very good moment, for all of us to have and be in front of those groups. We were there representing all those veterans, and we made sure they understood that they're part of that group.
From my aspect of this, the biggest thing is just outreach. Get out there to where the veterans are at. Let them know that you're not alone. There's help out there. That there's benefits out there. There's something as simple as buying a house. A veteran might want to buy a house. He may not have any disabilities, may not need VA health care, but he's going to buy a house. He's a veteran. He has benefits to that. So just spreading the word about what the benefits are and getting out there where the veterans are at.
Now, I know you have your cover with you, and it's often that the men will wear their hats, say that they're a veteran of a war or a conflict or even a service. Women don't typically wear the hats. They don't typically show the outward signs of being a veteran. How can women be more visual about being a veteran? How do you recognize a veteran?
You haven't seen my T-shirt that says I'm a grandma and a veteran. But and nothing frightens me. I think that is an evolution. And I'll tell you, at the stand down, you will see a lot of shirts, some that might be a little embarrassing, but women are coming into their own. I see it every day in my daughter-in-law, in the women that are around me as veterans, that we are starting to stand up and be counted, and we no longer have that thing in the VA where we walk in and they ask for my husband's Social Security number because they, of course, think that I'm the dependent. Now it has changed. They've recognized that women are serving, have served since the American Revolution, and that it's important that we be recognized for that. So I think I have my commander out in the audience, and she has her hat on with all her pins, and I couldn't be prouder. It's a wonderful thing. So I think seeing those changes that are coming and seeing the young veterans that are stepping forward and saying, this is what I need, this is what I want, don't tell me you can't do it, because this is what I experienced in the military. And if they can do it in the military, you can do it in the civilian world. I think that's great.
One final question for you all. What are some of the challenges you see in the next 10 to 20 years for our veterans as we continue to either be at war that we've been in for the last 20 years, or do we come out of war? What are those situations that you see facing our veterans in the next 20 years?
From the federal government side, I believe healthcare is going to be one of the biggest things for all veterans. Here locally in the community, it's just going to be, again, outreach, reaching to those veterans, getting them the benefits that they deserve. I think it's going to be, with the longest war going on right now, there's going to be a lot of veterans that are going to need service, from all kinds of aspects with it. So just being able to be there and provide the services that they need.
Ron, I know you're going to see it on the VFW side as well.
Well, and I think he hit the nail on the head there as far as the health service is concerned. I think it's the benefits in total that we're going to have to try to protect as much as we can to ensure that these young veterans are coming out and to still have the same kind of support that we have right now. I think it's really important that we kind of protect that for them. The other thing I see is from a workforce development piece is the technology is changing so quick in almost every field that we have out there. Is how do we continue to educate those young men and women out there so when they do make that transition, that they are prepared to be able to enter that workforce with credible skill sets, that are relevant to the new world that we live in. And so I think that's going to be a challenge for us as well. But that's probably more doable than the benefits part.
Olivia, how about yourself? I know you're part of getting them ready for that workforce, but make sure they have the resumes going as well. But what else do you see in the next 20 years?
Well, I think making it more cohesive. And by that, I'm talking about from healthcare to the benefits to the county, just blending those together and making it easier for the veteran to make that transition to civilian life. It's almost a thing where we have different organizations who are fighting against each other, saying, well, you can't do this because we're doing this. No, we can do it together. And I think that's one of the things that we've shown in Craven County is that we work together as a team, not against each other. And that has helped.
I want to thank you all for your insights today on being on the panel. Thank you all for your service as well. We're going to open up some questions. If there's anyone from the audience that has a question, we'd love to have you go to a microphone right there and please ask our panelists. And excuse the bright light that's getting ready to come on you in just a second so our camera can see you. There you go. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Deacon Jim Hackett from St. Paul Catholic Church in New Bern. And this question is for Jeff. Jeff, you said when people come to your office, the veterans are assessed and then given referrals. Is there a specific assessment tool you're using? And then how are those veterans connected to those specific services and programs for them?
There's not really a specific tool that we use to assess. A lot of it, we just kind of listen to what their needs are and what kind of services can be provided. We use the Veterans Council to send them out to other resources. We also work with NC Serves, and that's a larger community group effort with a lot of different organizations involved with that to resource out for them.
Plus you have the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs resource guide that's put out as well. There's a lot of good resources in there. So that's another great tool. I used to be with the department even before as well. So good tools. Yes, sir.
Hello, my name is Tony Wanda Jackson. I work for NC Works, and I'm a DVOP. And when I was young, I heard about the VFW and some of these other agencies. And I always thought it was for the old people. And the young people that are transitioning, they can identify with a lot of these groups. And when they transition, they're not told about a lot of these things. So as career progression goes on, what could be done to help them to better recognize that they are going to be veterans one day, and they may need these organizations, so they should get the information before that 4-day transition period, because that's not enough time to get all the information, and once they hear it, it goes in one ear and goes out the other. So shouldn't it be a more readily way to get that information to them before they get out, and then they get into the situation, and then we have to rebuild that individual all over again?
Well, I'm trying not to resemble that old guy, but I think at this point, I mean, you bring up a very good point, and part of what we're doing right now is getting back in front of the Marines at Cherry Point, getting in front of some of the younger folks. Like I said, we're starting to see a greening of the organization across the board. But we're also doing things that attract more of the younger guys. For instance, we have something coming up next month with the Scout organizations, where we're actually going to be doing, they're going to be doing a ham radio thing where they're going to link up with 1.5 million Scouts around the world. And we're holding that event at the VFW here in New Bern. We're also going to be doing Morse code, kind of, if you will, drills that we have right now. Some folks that were for Vietnam, actually, we're doing that. We have some RC modelers coming out to talk a little bit about frequencies and the kind of things that are going there. But what we've been able to do because of that is bring in a lot of our younger members that want to be involved with the young people out there in the community. And I think that's a good thing for us as well. I mean, it's just really kind of nice to be able to see us now getting back to, I think, some core things. I mean, it's not just all the time we spend at the canteen. I mean, there are other things that we can do in the community right now that will attract those younger active duty folks that we have out on base right now. We have the Single Marine program that we're heavily involved with. We've adopted military units on the base out there. We're working with our other VFW organizations in Jacksonville to make sure that they're doing the same thing and how we can collaborate with events that would, again, really revolve around the youth that we have in this country right now, with activity for patriotism, and get them involved with things that where they'll appreciate those younger members of their own family who are veterans. I think that's really key right now.
I know we were joking outside, and it was truly a joke, but one of the things that's really serious about it is as I go through and meet with younger veterans, the one thing that they have in common is they're playing video games, most of them. That would be an interesting look at if the VFW, American Legion, all the groups that are available, if they had a way of introducing themselves through the video games that are constantly being played by the younger veterans, because it is a tool for their PTSD as well, that are playing these games. So that might be an approach to get some of the younger veterans. I know the American Legion does a good job with the youth baseball, the high school level baseball. That's one of the things I played. That's how I was introduced to Legion myself. So I know that's one of the services available for the youth to get introduced. But yeah, the transition out, it is a short time. And whether you're talking about joining a VFW or just learning about your benefits, the communication is not quite fully there yet.
I agree with that, but I also agree with going to the veteran that you're trying to attract. Look at who, and this is something that I hear from different organizations where they say, well, we had the young people come out for bowling night and they only came once. Well, maybe that's not what they do. Find out what they want to do, where they want to go. It might be a football game, it might be a baseball game or something that's on their level. I have two sons that are Air Force veterans, and I know they're not going to want to go out and do gardening unless I just make it mandatory. So you have to find out where they want to go as an organization, and then you can attract them. But if you're telling them what they want to do, that's not going to work. It's never worked. It didn't even work in my younger days. So.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. Karen Hacker, Commander, DAV Chapter 40. You mentioned earlier homelessness. What in Craven County are all the chapters and organizations doing to help count the veterans that are homeless, to help them while they're homeless to get housing? There are so many different regulations. A regulation that NC Works believes is homeless is not the same regulation that the New Bern Housing Authority believes is homeless. Where do these people fall?
Well, one of the things that we do every year, and it'll be coming up in January, is the point-in-time count that is hosted by RCS. And most of the people, a point-in-time count, first let me explain that, is where individuals go out to locations and we try and find out how many homeless there are on that given day. That gives us an idea. The one from the past year, we had 7 homeless veterans, 32 homeless in all, which is a large number to say that those are specifically homeless veterans. But you are correct, because if that person slept on a couch the night before, they are not considered homeless, even if they didn't know if they were going to sleep on a couch that next night. So it is kind of hard to determine who is homeless. If you don't have a home and you're just sleeping in a borrowed room or something like that, the category for homelessness changes from county to state to federal. So what the organizations are doing, we're trying to provide services for them with our Veterans Council. We try and use our clearinghouse to provide services that way. Any number of things you want to add on?
I think, yeah, there's two parts of this. I mean, we have those that are homeless. We have those that are going to be homeless for whatever reason, financial issues that they have. With the Craven County Veterans Council, actually, part of what we do every meeting that we meet is we say, is there a veteran in need? And we come up and talk about an individual's, they'll bring it up that electricity is being cut off, they need rent money, whatever the issue may be. I lost my job, I can't pay the bills this month, kind of thing. And we have a little group that sits together. We try to make some determinations. Rashima Walker is a very big part of that. Puts together a clearinghouse report that gives us the information on the individuals. We do a little assessment on their eligibility for these benefits that we have. And then the groups, for instance, I think last month we had a veteran who was needed help with his rent, and there was 4 of the veterans organizations actually kicked in to be able to take care of that. And then along with that went some counseling to try to find out exactly how we could stabilize that situation and get him back on the right track. So we just don't just throw money at it. We actually try to get him to Jeff, get him to other places right now that can provide information and education about some of the other ways that they can address their issues.
Long-term solutions.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is James Hunter. I'm also the commander of Chapter 26 out of Havelock for the DAV, and I'm currently one of the senior service officers there for helping veterans do their disability claims, which I feel, for the most part, fairly comfortable with, other than some of the complicated ones I definitely redirect towards back up to Jeff Futrell's office. But my question is this. Of late, I'm at a loss for trying to get information about the healthcare side of the house. Currently, just in the last 3 months, I've gotten 3 different veterans that are in local nursing homes and that are not VA connected. So obviously they're 100% veteran, but they don't get any disability or any support financially, while in that home they're paying out of pocket. Now that they're out and they're home, there's no one there to assist them, and I'm trying to crack the code on who do I send them to or contact to be able to get into all the benefits that are there for the healthcare side of the house.
Everybody's looking at me on this one. It sounds like that the particular individual may or may not be directly enrolled in VA health care. Just because he's 100% disabled does not require VA health care coverage. But that's where the services would be provided if he were through VA health care and his nursing home was due to service-connected disabilities and or home health care due to service-connected disabilities, that the VA health care side could provide some assistance with that. So it's always a case-by-case basis. Everything's a little bit different, but if you have any questions on it, by all means, come by my office or call me, and we can talk case-by-case with that.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
And Jeff, I know there's a lot of Jeffs in the room, sorry, but that's one of the issues that I see from being one of the troops that's on the ground trying to help people with or veterans with their claims. VA healthcare, just because a veteran is covered in VA healthcare doesn't mean that they have their benefits. And some veterans don't understand that. They think, oh, I've got medical care, of course the benefits side knows about me. Well, no, they don't. So having benefits, and then it's the reverse. Having benefits doesn't mean that VA healthcare knows about you. It would be wonderful if these two entities would talk with each other a little bit easier. But veterans need to understand that they need to apply to both. Both of those entities have to be contacted by the veteran. It's not something that just easily overlaps. And that's what frustrates a lot of the younger veterans, believe it or not, because they can't understand why don't they talk to each other.
Right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you to our panel, Jeff, Ron, and Love. Definitely thank you. And I'm sure if you have more, do you have a question, ma'am? I'm sorry. Come on up to the microphone.
Hello, everybody. I have a quick question. How do we combat the stigma attached to veteran? Per se, I'm a female Marine veteran. Most people usually don't, when they see me, obviously equate me to veteran. When you hear veteran, for people my age or younger, they think old. VA old, VFW old. But when you talk about veterans, you assume it's someone that retired out of the military, but then you have those of us, exactly, you have those of us who are younger, who are still, you know, living our lives and going about our youth. And we don't attach ourselves to a lot of the benefits or things that come with that word veteran. So is there something being done to help reach out to the younger veterans who are in the wind or who don't necessarily feel the camaraderie of belonging to a veteran organization? Maybe a youth veteran liaison who's out there speaking to their peers. I personally have peers who are younger veterans who are having issues getting their benefits or just don't want them because they don't feel like they're entitled to them, or that have issues with PTSD and different things but won't go to a hospital to seek help because they feel like I'm still young and that's not for me. So how do we reach out to our peers and get them to seek these services and these benefits and take advantage of what they rightfully earned?
Wow, that is a real problem in a nutshell, and I think it's going to come down to marketing. I think that we have to, as you're seeing, there are a lot more military members that are even going into government service, you know, and why? Because they see a problem there. And it's the same thing with your generation. You see a problem there, and you're saying, hey, you guys need to do something about this. And I think that it's going to be an instance where the squeaky wheel gets the oil. You're going to have to keep saying, look, you know, I mean, I thought the same thing about the VFW, you know, or the American Legion. And then you get to a certain age and you're like, wait a minute, maybe not. But there should be that transition for veterans as they move out, you know. I mean, my son is a veteran, he's in his 30s. And, you know, telling him to go to the VFW or American Legion, he's like, yeah, right, Mom. So yeah, something needs to evolve. There are younger veteran organizations, but as Ron said.
And that's a valid point. I mean, if we didn't have this problem of identifying with your folks like yourself out there, the younger veterans out there, the VFW wouldn't be having 1,000 VFWs close annually. You know, we're seeing that with the other organizations across the board as well. That's why it's important for us to provide these outreach programs so that you understand your benefits and that you understand what some of these organizations can do for you on the legislative side of the house. I mean, I talked earlier about trying to preserve the benefits for all those folks that we're going to see down the road 10, 20 years from now. I mean, those are the things that we try to get involved with right now at that level within an organization like the VFW, the American Legion, and some of the others. But, you know, we're not going to be here forever, you know, so certainly we are looking to say, who is that next group of people that want to step forward right now, be the activists for the veterans community, and help preserve those benefits, and that, you know, so that they feel like their service wasn't wasted, all right? I mean, I think that's very important. I mean, somebody said the other day, you know, we celebrate Veterans Day. Every day is Veterans Day. We should be doing something every day for a veteran because, you know, that's the kind of need that's out there right now.
Something I want to add to this, you know, the younger generation who are getting out of the military, who do not associate with the old guys sitting around the Legion telling war stories. The younger generation, you know, needs to be proud that they're veterans, that they've served, whether they served 4 years, 20 years, however long they served. Be proud that you're a veteran. Be that role model to other veterans, and start spreading the word about your benefits and getting them involved with it too. You know, peer pressure is a tough thing, but it can be a good thing also. So,
one of the things I've seen as well, joining other companies around the state, I've seen their employee resource groups forming for veterans groups. That is a great way to get the younger veterans in their businesses, because they're all working at that point. They're that 20 to 50-year-old, sometimes longer, range. They're in the employment status at that point. So if you can form in your own company your resource groups of veterans, it's a self-identification, of course, but if you can do that, you can start sharing those ideas. You can work with each other on what benefits you have. Obviously, talking about PTSD is a very big, important thing to keep sharing and helping each other out. That's a great way of doing that as well. Well, again, thank you so much for everyone joining us, and thank you for joining us at home as well. I appreciate you joining us on SITREP. Thank you so much, panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.